The rain felt as cold as the grief that had taken root in Maria's heart. Standing at her husband's grave, her young son's hand clutched in hers, she was sure this storm would never end. She couldn't tell her own tears from the cold rain running down her face, it was all just a relentless flood of sorrow. Hope felt like a foreign country she'd been banished from. But she was wrong. An old, loyal friend was about to change everything. The following story is a work of fiction, but it's inspired by the very real bonds between soldiers and their canine partners, and the incredible loyalty that never truly fades. Sometimes it feels like a door has slammed shut for good. Like a chapter in your life has ended so finally, all that's left is silence and the cold space where something warm used to be. People tell you that time heals all wounds, that the sun will come out again. But when you're standing in the middle of the storm, those words feel empty, like they're from a world you don't live in anymore. It's in those moments, when hope feels like a distant memory, that life can send a messenger, an unlikely guide to show you that some bonds can't be broken, and that the deepest love sometimes leaves behind a map to find your way back to the light. This is a story about a love that reached past death, and a friend whose loyalty had no limits. Section 1, The Weight of Grief. 6 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. That's how long it had been since Sergeant David Miller came home for the last time, under the flag he'd served so proudly. 6 months that felt like a lifetime and a single, never-ending second all at once. The world kept on spinning, which felt like a personal betrayal. The seasons were turning toward autumn, but in Maria's heart, it was a permanent winter. Here, in the vast quiet of the National Cemetery, the silence was different. It wasn't just a lack of noise, it was heavy, filled with all the things left unsaid. David's headstone was still new, its polished granite sharp and dark. The engraved letters were unforgiving, David Allen Miller. Sergeant, U.S. Army. Beloved husband and father. Beside her, 7-year-old Leo was unnaturally still. His small fingers were wrapped so tightly around hers, his knuckles were white. In his other hand, he clutched a little green plastic soldier, his father's last gift, sent from halfway across the world a week before they got the news. He hadn't let it out of his sight since. He didn't cry anymore. He was just quiet, his big, brown eyes, so much like his dad's, holding a sadness no kid should ever have to carry. At their feet lay Major. The Belgian Malinois was more than a pet, he was David's partner. A combat tracker dog with 2 tours of duty. David used to call him his four-legged shadow, a steady presence that had saved his life more than once. After David was gone, the army made special arrangements to retire Major and send him home. He was a living, breathing piece of David, which was both a comfort and a constant, painful reminder. Major seemed to be grieving, too. He'd pace the house, his claws clicking on the floors, and nudge open the door to David's study only to stand there and whine, a low, mournful sound that tore Maria's heart to shreds. But here, at the grave, he was completely still, his amber eyes locked on the headstone as if he were on guard, waiting for a command that would never come. Maria remembered David telling her about a World War I war dog, a stray named Sergeant Stubby. "You wouldn't believe this little guy," he'd said over a crackly video call. He warned his unit about gas attacks, found wounded soldiers, even captured a German spy. Became the most decorated war dog in American history. A legend. He'd told her the story to explain the bond he had with his own partner. "Major's got that same heart," David had said. "He's the most loyal soul I've ever known. He'd do anything for me, and he'd do anything for you and Leo. He's family." Now, that loyalty was a silent vigil in the pouring rain. Family. The word felt hollow. Their family was a triangle with one side torn away. The initial flood of support had slowed to a trickle. The phone calls were less frequent, the casseroles from neighbors had stopped. Life moved on for everyone else. For Maria and Leo, it had ground to a halt. Then the other letters started coming. Not condolences, but bills. The mortgage, the car, the credit card debt. David's military benefits were a bureaucratic maze she could barely navigate through her fog of grief. A cold fear started to creep in, the fear of failing, of not being enough for Leo, of losing the home David had worked so hard for. She felt like she was drowning. She looked down at her son. "We should go, sweetie," she whispered. "It's getting cold." Leo just nodded, his eyes fixed on the name carved in the stone. Maria's heart ached. This was their life now, a widow and a fatherless son, crying in the rain. Section 2, The Bolt from the Blue. Just then, the sky opened up, turning the rain from a drumbeat to a roar on her umbrella. It felt like a sign to go, to run for shelter. Maria squeezed Leo's hand. "Come on, honey. Let's go home. I'll make hot chocolate." She reached for Major's leash, and a powerful jolt shot up her arm. Major was rigid, coiled like a spring, his head up and ears locked onto something in the distance. A low, guttural whine rumbled in his chest, a sound she'd never heard. It wasn't grief. It was a high-level alert. "Major, what is it?" she murmured, trying to pull him close. He ignored her, staring deeper into the cemetery. He strained against the leash, the pull far stronger than she expected. "Major, no. Stop," she commanded, trying to sound like David. He glanced back at her, his eyes wide and urgent, as if to say, "You have to trust me." And then he lunged. The leash ripped from her slippery grasp. He was gone. He didn't run toward the parking lot. He bolted in the opposite direction, a black and tan blur vanishing between the headstones. Panic, sharp and cold, cut through Maria's grief. "Major," she screamed. Losing him, the last, living piece of David, was unthinkable. It felt like losing everything all over again. Then, Leo sprang to life. "Major," he yelled, his voice suddenly strong. He dropped his plastic soldier in the grass and took off running. "Mom, he knows something. We have to follow him." Leo's cry snapped Maria out of her stupor. Her son was chasing their dog into a maze of graves. She couldn't lose them both. "Leo, wait," she cried, but he was already gone. She dropped the umbrella and ran. The cold rain soaked her instantly, but she barely felt it. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The quiet, somber cemetery was suddenly a scene of a frantic chase. Section 3, The Chase Through the Stones. The world became a blur of gray sky, green grass, and white headstones. Maria ran, her breath tearing at her lungs. She wasn't a runner, and months of grief had left her exhausted, but she pushed on, fueled by a mother's fear. Leo was surprisingly fast, weaving through the graves with a certainty she hadn't seen in him for months. "He's waiting for us, Mom," he shouted back, pointing. Sure enough, Major had stopped up ahead. He stood looking back at them, his tail giving a single, impatient wag. He wasn't running away. He was leading them. The realization hit her hard. This wasn't panic. This was a mission. A memory surfaced of David at the kitchen table. When he's locked on a scent, he'd explained, nothing can stop him. He's not just running, he's following an invisible road right to the target. Her frustration melted into a hesitant curiosity. Was it possible? The dog's focus was too deliberate to be random. He was moving like a highly trained soldier executing a command. They followed him deeper into a part of the cemetery she'd never seen, where the stones were ancient and tilted, their inscriptions worn away by time. It felt wild, a place steeped in forgotten history. "Where is he taking us?" she panted, catching up to Leo. "To find something," Leo said, with the simple faith of a child. Dad always said Major was the best finder in the whole army. He was right. David had told Leo stories of hero dogs, like Chips from World War II, who charged a machine gun nest to save his platoon. To Leo, Major was one of them, a soldier with a duty. Watching Major trot purposefully down an overgrown path, Maria started to believe it, too. He was following a map only he could see. He wasn't just a grieving dog, he was a soldier on his last mission. The thought sent a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Section 4, The Hidden Corner. Major finally stopped, not at a grave, but at the base of a massive oak tree on the far edge of the cemetery. He sat, poised and alert, and looked from a spot near the tree's roots to Maria, then back again. His message was clear, "We're here." Maria looked around, bewildered. There was nothing here. "Okay, Major," she said softly. "You brought us here. Now what?" Major just whined and nudged a patch of moss and earth with his nose. Disappointment washed over her. He'd led them all this way for, what? An animal burrow? A smell? The absurdity of it, soaked, muddy, and emotionally wrecked, chasing a dog through a graveyard, made her want to cry. "No, Major. Enough," she said, her voice tight. "We're going home." She reached for his collar, but he dodged her. He let out a sharp bark and started digging, sending clumps of wet dirt flying. He looked at her again, his eyes pleading. It was the same purposeful whine he'd make during training with David. And then it hit her. David, hiding a training packet in the yard. Major, finding it and making that exact sound, pawing the ground. David's voice echoed in her head, "He's telling me, the objective is right here. Dig." Her skepticism vanished. "Leo, stand back," she said, her voice suddenly steady. She knelt in the mud, ignoring her ruined coat. Her world had shrunk to this single patch of earth. She pushed away the wet leaves and moss. "I see something," Leo exclaimed, his small hands digging beside hers. His fingers had brushed against something hard and flat. A smooth, square flagstone, deliberately hidden. Her heart pounded. With a grunt, they both pulled. The mud let go with a sucking sound, and the stone tilted up. Beneath it was a small, dark space. Nestled inside, protected by a waterproof soldier's bag, was a dull green, metal ammunition box. For a long moment, Maria could only stare. The world fell away. There was only the box. A secret, hidden in the earth. Led to this exact spot by a dog who had kept a promise. Major sat beside them, panting softly, his tail thumping the ground. His job was done. Section 5, The Life-Changing Discovery. With trembling hands, Maria lifted the heavy, cold box from the ground. Leo huddled close, his eyes wide. Major rested his chin on her knee, a warm, reassuring weight. She worked the stiff latch open. It clicked loudly in the quiet air. Slowly, she lifted the lid. The air smelled of canvas and old paper. On top lay a thick stack of letters tied with a leather cord. The top one read, in David's unmistakable handwriting, "For my son, Leo. To be opened on your 18th birthday." A sob caught in Maria's throat. David had left his son a lifetime of fatherly advice, a final gift that defied death. She gently set the letters aside, tears blurring her vision. Beneath them was a small velvet pouch. Inside were 2 tarnished dog tags, Thomas Miller. David's grandfather, a World War II vet whose unmarked grave was lost somewhere in this cemetery. David had found him. This spot wasn't just a hiding place, it was sacred. At the very bottom was a thick leather portfolio. It was filled with patents and legal documents for a revolutionary water purification device David had invented, inspired by what he'd seen on his deployments. He'd always called it his little side project. She never knew. The documents told the whole story. He had completed it, patented it, and just before his final deployment, sold the technology to a major engineering firm. And then she saw the financials. He had put the entire sale, a staggering, life-altering amount of money, into a trust fund. A trust fund for Maria Miller and Leo Miller. Tucked in the back was one last letter, addressed to her. My dearest Maria. If you are reading this, it means I didn't make it home. And it means Major did his job one last time. I'm so sorry for the pain you must be feeling. The thought of it was the only thing that ever scared me. I know you. You're worried about the mortgage, about Leo, about how you'll do it all alone. Please, let me help. I couldn't bear you carrying that weight. This was my plan to secure our future, no matter what. I wanted to tell you when I got back, just to see your face. But a soldier always has a contingency plan. The spot where you are is where my grandfather rests. I found him a few years ago. This old oak was my church. Now, I want it to be yours. A place of strength. I trained Major for this. I told him, if I don't come back, you have one last mission, boy. Take care of them. I knew I could trust him. He's more than a dog, he's a promise keeper. Live a beautiful life, Maria. Give Leo the world. Tell him his dad loved him more than words can say. Don't let my memory be an anchor. Let it be the push you need to move forward. All my love, forever. David. Section 6, The Dawn After the Storm. As Maria finished the letter, the world came back, but it was different. The rain had stopped. Through a break in the clouds, a single ray of sunlight cut through the oak branches, lighting the clearing in a warm, golden glow. The tears streaming down Maria's face were no longer cold tears of grief. They were warm tears of love, gratitude, and overwhelming relief. The crushing weight on her chest was gone, replaced by a lightness she thought she'd never feel again. David wasn't just a memory. His love was right here, real and solid, a legacy plan to set them free. Leo wrapped his small arms around her neck. He looked from her face to the box, a new understanding in his eyes. Dad's not gone, is he? He whispered. No, sweetie, Maria choked out, clutching him tight. He's right here. He's always going to be right here. Major, their loyal hero, pushed his head between them, licking away their tears. His duty was done. The promise he made to his partner was kept. He was the guardian of their future, the four-legged angel who led them out of the storm. They weren't broken. They were a family, rebuilt on a foundation of love that could never be destroyed. Standing in that patch of sunlight, Maria knew, with absolute certainty, they were going to be okay. Conclusion. Some people might say loyalty is just an animal's instinct. But anyone who has been loved by an animal knows it's more than that. It's a bond that can defy logic, distance, and even death. David Miller's last act of love would have remained a secret, buried in the earth, if not for the unwavering loyalty of his partner. Major, the soldier's dog, didn't just lead a widow and her son to a box of papers. He led them out of the deepest darkness and back into the sunlight. He reminded them that hope is never really lost, sometimes, you just need a very good boy to show you the map. CTA. What is the most loyal thing a pet has ever done for you? Share your stories in the comments below. We'd love to read them. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe for more moving stories, and share it with someone who might need a little bit of hope today.